Geoff, I wanted to ask the question. Okay, so we're starting to think about what to do with those funds. Maybe share with everybody, when have you checked that box that you've done enough for reserves? How much is too much? And then what do you do with the money when you start to take those dividends or distributions?
Yeah, I think I was getting close to that, and then there was a hurricane that came through. So I haven't made that decision yet, and we can talk about that. Another way to avoid sleepless nights, right? Like there was a hurricane that came through Jacksonville and it took out a tree in the back of one of my properties, and it damaged the roof, it damaged the structure. We had a vent pipe that had to get replaced. I think a rafter or two had to get replaced, resheeting, tree removal to the tune of $8,000+ hit. And I did a conversation with interesting with JWB because my first inclination was, okay, use the reserve fund. That's what they're there for, which means you guys don't have to hold off. You don't have to get an insurance adjuster out there. If I went with insurance, and I know I've got a resident who's got a hole in their roof. They're probably living the most stressful point in maybe their life, right? Certainly a high stress moment. They'll be talking about that 20 years from now. They'll be talking about how we handled that. And by we, I mean JWB and me. That's now part of their family history and story. And so my stress at having to cough up the $8,000 out of a reserve account versus their stress that they're going through is de minimis. And I think keeping that in the back of your mind as a philosophy is a good thing to have there. Now, if I'd gone with the insurance, right now, I would have been on the hook for $2,500 deductible, but I own multiple rental properties. And I've got a primary home in California out in the wildland where wildfire insurance is dang near impossible to get. And don't talk to me about Florida insurance markets. So now I've got a claim. That means I'm in the rich bucket of more likely to use insurance. That means probably the premium going up on all those properties. So net, it's probably going to cost me more than the $8,000 if I go with the insurance between the $2,500 and 5 years of increased premium. I had that choice, one or two, because I had the reserves. If I didn't have the reserves, it would have been between option 2 and 3, 3 being, sell stock, take a capital gain on that. So it's more cost to pay for it, or being forced to use insurance. It was real easy for me to just say to JWB, do what you got to do, get it done, get it to the resident. And that took my reserve down a bit. And so that delayed me rethinking, like, do I pay off principal on an existing property to increase the cash flow if I recast the loan? Do I take the reserve and take that account down and use that money to buy another JWB property? I was in keeping those thoughts, and then with Matthew came through and took out my tree.
Yeah. And this is a real life scenario. If you're thinking about investing in rental properties, look at how Geoff just described the way he goes about this generally as low stress, but he has had significant expenses. I mean, it is a part of the deal. But when you go about it, if you're proactive, you plan ahead, you have those reserves in place, you're making thoughtful, logical decisions rather than emotional decisions. Emotional decisions tend to lead to lower returns on investment. You get upset, you might sell the asset, or you have to sell some stock in order to find the money in order to pay for it, which causes other expenses. Just don't get there. Be thoughtful ahead of time. And I think the idea of paying for an expense, even an expensive expense, like we just talked about, an $8,000 cost versus doing insurance, is a common question. That's one where our team internally, along with our insurance team, can really help kind of advise you. And it's not just as simple as what's my deductible versus what's the cost? How much savings could I get day one? We need to think beyond that. We need to think, how many rental properties do you own? Where's your primary residence? Is it a location where it's hard to get insurance? Are there other natural disasters that are making it more difficult for you to be able to get insurance? Is that going to threaten that? How long are you planning on holding on to the asset? So this type of conversation is where that relationship comes into play. Most investors never even think of this. They never have the foresight to think. They don't have a trusted team to help them. And then they make, the wrong decision. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, how cool is it to be surrounded by investors who care so much about the residents?
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Every point along the way here, we're seeing Geoff care about the
Yeah.
resident.
Yeah.
And that is something I think that is unique to our community, to our client base. It is not just enough to be able to make a great return on investment here. We need to know that somebody's winning on the other side.
Yeah.
And what I try to evangelize is that when you invest in turnkey rental properties the right way, you are helping build families, you're helping build communities, you're helping build a better city. I think in a grand scale, turnkey rental properties build a better country, right? We create financial stability for both our residents and our owners. So I know it's really, really important to Jeff, and it's just not enough just to make a buck these days.